So there I was, 18 months into owning my prized Triumph Thruxton motorcycle, standing in my garage at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night, covered in chain grease, motor oil, and actual blood from my knuckles, holding a wrench like I just slayed a dragon. I had just changed my own oil and brake pads. Don't act like you're not impressed. With the help of some YouTube videos and not one, not two, but 3 pints of Guinness as my delicious Irish fuel, I had actually completed it. And honestly, I felt incredible. Like I just unlocked some primal masculine achievement. I literally yelled, "Victory is mine!" to an empty garage, like some suburban conquistador claiming victory over super basic motorcycle maintenance. I'm such an idiot. I know, it's dorky behavior, but also I felt like a goddamn legend. And here's the thing, as I was scrubbing my hands of grease and dried blood, just because I can change some motorcycle brake pads does not make me a motorcycle mechanic. I'm not one. I couldn't do anything else on that motorcycle. And I thought about how it connects with photographers, how there's so many photographers out there that can just do the most basic shit, right? They learn to freeze motion and expose an image properly and make the background out of focus, and suddenly they're a professional photographer. But I've met some who can't even do that half the time, and they still charge clients a premium. They hit the lowest possible bar for the craft. They plant a flag like they've conquered Everest. It's like hiking from the parking lot to base camp and calling it the summit. But what if the fundamentals aren't the finish line? What if they're not even the fucking point? Maybe asking, how do I take a good photo, is the wrong question. Maybe the real question, the one that actually matters, is a bit messier and harder and way more interesting. Welcome to the Terrible Photographer Podcast. My name is Patrick Four, and today's episode is called Why Shapes How. I'm actually really stoked about this episode because it comes from chapter 5 of my book, which is coming out pretty soon. The book is called Lessons from a Terrible Photographer. And today we are talking about intention, execution, and the lie of objectivity. So we've been obsessed with the how of photography, the technical execution, the gear mastery, the pixel perfect precision. Meanwhile, the why, WHY, gets treated like some sort of optional philosophical add-on that you can worry about later. Some people don't even think about it at all. But what if the relationship is completely reversed? What if the why doesn't just matter? What if the why literally shapes how? It's kind of why I named the episode Why Shapes How, you know? So the technical stuff, I'm talking about exposure and focus and compositional rules. I think that's just maintenance. The brake pads, the changing the oil, the air filter, are those essential? 100%. Absolutely. But that's not what separates memorable work from forgettable technical exercises. Sometimes the how of photography, the how, is getting incredibly easy. Every year it's getting easier. Autofocusing systems can literally track your eye movement as you track a subject now. AI can composite a burning dumpster into an enchanted forest and make it look like, Monet painted it during some particular weird acid trip. You don't even have to understand what you're doing anymore. You just need a credit card and a decent Wi-Fi. So if the how is increasingly automated, what's left for us? I would argue it's intent, it's purpose. It's the conscious decision to engage with the why your images matter. That's the question separating great photographers from everyone else with an expensive camera. So I have this friend, Jamar, and Jamar is legitimately a skilled photographer. He has a corporate gig that includes photography work, and he genuinely loves what he does. But whenever I bring up the nerdy shit, right? Like studying the masters or developing an artistic voice, he pushes back with a polite but firm resistance. Jokingly, he said one time, swear to God, if you bring up Richard Avedon one more time, I mean, it's true. I do like Richard Avedon. He said this to me at one point. He goes, I just like making cool portraits. I'm not trying to be some fancy artist or make some grand statement about the human condition. And I think about that a lot. And he's not wrong. But I don't think he's entirely right either. Because even if you're not trying to say something with your work, I think your work always does. And even though Jamar insists that he just likes taking portraits, I think his images reveal unmistakable patterns, specific lighting approaches, particular expressions he gravitates towards, compositional choices that are distinctly his, skin tones and color tones that are uniquely his. And these aren't random decisions. These are expressions of his aesthetic values, his unconscious perspective on what makes a portrait worth creating. And the difference is that photographers who engage consciously with their intent, I think, gain something powerful. They gain creative direction. When you understand what drives your work, decisions become purposeful instead of random. I want to give you a concrete example of this. Here's what this looks like in practice. I want you to picture two photographers, let's call them family photographers. And they're going to be shooting the same family and same general goal, family portraits. But how they approach this family session is going to be completely different, really on two different planets. Photographer A, right? Let's call him Mike. Mike runs a tight 45-minute session. Mike has the same shot list that he's used for the past 4 years. Clients choose from one of 3 locations that Mike has chosen and that he's shot at consistently. Mike gives the same wardrobe tips to everyone. Neutral tones, no logos. Mike moves fast, hits his checklist, gets to smiling at the camera shots, calls it a day. Images are technically fine, but emotionally vacant. Nothing remarkable about these images. You could swap one family out for another and barely notice. They look like standard family photography images. Now I want to talk about photographer B. Let's call her Lindsay. Lindsay slows way down. She asks questions. Questions like, what makes this family them? She learns their kids are obsessed with bugs and always brings home rocks in their pockets. The parents fell in love with hiking, and they do that a lot as a family. So after Lindsay learns this, they meet in a wooded trail near the family's home. Lindsay directs them to wear earth tones because it fits the vibe. The shoot is in very early morning. Soft light, no crowds, no pressure. There are snacks packed specifically for the mid-shoot break. And she's not just capturing faces. She's chasing these moments. The flash of joy when the daughter finds a caterpillar. And when the dad crouches down without thinking. The look the mom gives him in that exact second. Yes, she does also get the everyone smile, look at the camera, frame for grandma's refrigerator. But even that feels cinematic. Like a still from a story that's still unfolding. Every decision had a reason, a why. And the work feels alive because of it. That's the difference. Same subject, same tools, same general assignment. One photographer is just ticking boxes. The other is telling the truth. And here's where it gets interesting. Every photograph is fundamentally a decision. It's a choice, a subjective interpretation of reality filtered through human consciousness. You choose what to include and what to exclude. You decide when to press the shutter and when to wait. You determine what to emphasize through focus and lighting and composition. But we've been sold this lie that images can somehow be objective, that a photograph simply captures reality exactly as it exists, free from human interpretation. Your perspective is always present, shaping how you see, influencing what you notice, determining what feels worth capturing. And the question is whether you're conscious of that perspective or just letting it run on autopilot. So last year I was hired for this major commercial shoot in LA. We were working in an LED volume. Basically picture a large warehouse with a massive 180-degree LED video wall with video on the ceiling as well. Think the Mandalorian technology, but for selling luxury car stereos. Massive curved wall of LED screens, transforming this studio into whatever scene you wanted. My job was creating, quote, authentic images of a family naturally using a car's technology in this completely artificial environment. These two pristine vehicles, dozens of crew members, client teams scrutinizing everything down to the water bottle color in the cup holder, a digital sun frozen at golden hour on a 60-foot LED backdrop. But here's what surprised me. Even with all that manufactured chaos, there was genuine moments that broke through. The child actors that we casted for this gig started laughing for real. Completely unscripted joy. The woman that we casted, unrelated to the children, looked back at the kids with a slight grin. It felt real. She's acknowledging how ridiculous this massive production was. And somehow that self-aware smile made her look really natural, more natural than any sort of direction I could have provided. And all of that polished artifice faded into the background. It became quiet noise. And despite being surrounded by millions of dollars worth of technology designed to simulate reality, something actually genuine happened. And that's what conscious intent does. It helps you recognize authenticity when it breaks through, and even in the most artificial circumstances, because you know what you're hunting for. At its core, photography is a conversation. And as photographers, we obsess over technical perfection, social media engagement, gear specs. But for viewers, none of that technical bullshit matters. They're searching for something that they can connect with on a human level, something that validates their emotions, sparks joy, shifts their perspective just enough to make them think or feel something differently. Look at TikTok, for example. People were desperate for real, unfiltered content. Instagram had become this platform of carefully angled vacation photos and artisanal latte art. TikTok threw that polished performance out the window. Videos that were shot in-app consistently outperformed highly produced content. People didn't care if the lighting was perfect or the footage was smooth. They were drawn to authenticity, like moths to a flame. It became this weird, rough, sometimes terrible, but it felt real to people. Turns out, humanity prefers a cracked window over a stained glass filter. And the content that generally moves me, stories that touch something deeper, is the person alone in their room with the guitar singing an original song with a dream, or the grandfather doing stand-up for the first time at 75. And let's just not talk about the dog videos. All the dog videos on the internet inspire me. Here's the uncomfortable truth. As someone who really values technical perfection and precision, I care a lot about it. I'm kind of a nerd about the technical stuff. As good as my image might be technically, it still might be emotionally shallow. But an image that makes you feel something profound, that burns into memory forever, and that might not be technically perfect. Think about the photographs that have genuinely stuck with you. I think they're rarely technically flawless. And more often, they might be raw. They're messy, not quite perfect. But often they're brimming with conscious intent. There's a photojournalist in 1968, Eddie Adams. He captured one of the most famous images of the Vietnam War, the very instant of an execution during the chaos of the Tet Offensive. And I think you've probably seen this image. It's slightly out of focus. It's rushed framing, cluttered background, and by all conventional standards, it fails multiple technical criteria. But Adams knew exactly what he was documenting. A snub-nosed pistol already recoiling in an outstretched arm as the prisoner's face contorts from the force of a bullet entering his skull. And to the left, a watching soldier grimaces in shock. Ballistic experts say that this image captures the precise microsecond the bullet enters the man's head. And it's hard not to feel the same repulsion and guilt, knowing that you're looking at the exact moment of death. And this image galvanized American sentiment about the war's futility, not through technical perfection, but through unwavering intent. And look, there's no workshop to teach how to recreate that moment. And there's no preset to capture that raw, terrible, brutal honesty. The how didn't matter in that moment, but the intent was everything. When you know your why, every how becomes clearer. You're not just picking a lens, you're choosing intimacy over distance. You're not just adjusting depth of field, you're deciding what deserves focus and what can be blurred away. You're not just waiting for the right moment. You're hunting for a specific emotion that serves your larger purpose. This is what separates conscious creation from unconscious button pushing. Every technical decision becomes an expression of your intent rather than just following some predetermined formula. Making purposeful visual decisions means constantly asking, does this element help communicate what I'm trying to say, or does it distract from its emotional core? And it's never about capturing what's in front of your lens. It's about actually curating reality and your specific vision. The hero of your image needs a space to shine. Everything else should either support that or get out of the way. When every choice carries intention, your work will say what words never could. Okay, so intent isn't mood, it's a muscle. Most of us learned photography by asking, how? How do I shoot this? How do I light that? How do I make it look good? But rarely do we pause and we ask, why am I shooting this? Why this light? Why this crop? Why this color? Why this moment? And it's easier to chase tutorials than it is to sit with that question. And let's be honest, there's a lot of money in photography education teaching you the how to light like this person, how to create this effect, how to capture the entire cosmos and still have it be in focus. All of those answers are out there on the internet right now waiting for you. But when someone asks you why, you're going to say, well, it depends. It depends on what you're going for, what you're trying to communicate. And there's no tutorial for that. And the hardest part about photography for me isn't taking the photos. That's the simple part. Sometimes the hardest part is making decisions, deciding on what my intent will be. And I think intent, as I've thought about it, is more like a muscle. You have to develop that muscle of making choices, having direction, standing behind your work. And that's what this episode has been all about, building that muscle, not just learning to shoot, how to shoot, but learning to choose, to direct, to declare, to stand behind a photo, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. So this week's Light Leak, I want you to look at the last serious photo that you took for client, a test shoot, your portfolio, not of your kids playing with your dog, with your iPhone, but the last actual photo that you took. And don't cheat and pick your best one, just the last one. And I want you to ask some serious questions. Why did you light it that way? Why did you crop it that way? Why did you process or color grade it the way that you did? And for some of you, the answer might be, well, this is how I've always done it. Or that you've learned it from a tutorial, or you've copied it from an influencer and never really questioned it. And for others, it's, this is what's trendy right now. Or this is what the client wanted. Or I don't know how to do anything different. Or for others, you might just say, I don't know. And you can't articulate it. And I want you to just sit with that. Don't change anything. Don't judge yourself. Just notice where your decisions are coming from. And the next time that you shoot, I want you to pause before you reach for that lens or that modifier. And I want you to ask yourself this: what do I want to do? Where is this instinct coming from? Be a little self-critical. Analyze your choices. Think about the why behind your work. Okay, so let's put a bow on this episode, shall we? Here's what you've learned in this episode. And for all you ADHD kids like me that just forget everything that you just heard, you can know every setting in your camera. You can shoot with a $3,000 lens. You can still make work that has no life to it. That's kind of boring, like bland hospital food or Panera bread. Because how is easy. We can figure anything out. We can go on YouTube and learn how to do anything. And let's be honest, cameras and software do most of it for you. But why? That's the hard part. That's the part that you can't Google. And intent isn't some artsy bonus prize. It's the difference between ticking boxes and feeling something. And if you want to make work that feels alive, not just clean or correct, then you've got to be brave enough to decide what you actually want to say. If everything that I've talked about feels foreign or weird or like a gut punch or maybe even relief, then you should probably be on the Field Notes email list. It's a weekly behind the scenes for photographers who are tired of pretending this whole industry isn't secretly ridiculous. I promise there's no fluff, no bullshit presets, no top 5 poses your clients will love, although some of you will not subscribe because of that. When you sign up, I'll send you the first chapter of my book, my new book. I'm really proud of it. Lessons from a Terrible Photographer. Can you see a theme happening here? You can get it in PDF and audio form, so you can hear my beautiful voice reading you the first chapter. How awesome is that? It's to describe it, it's part memoir, part creative survival guide, part flamethrower, aimed at everything shallow, fake, and gear obsessed in this industry. You can get it now. Head over to terriblephotographer.com, put in your email in, and it'll be in your inbox before you know it. And in the meantime, I want you to go make something that feels like you, even if it's stupid, even if it's grainy, even if it's weird, especially if it's weird. Because perfect is boring. People don't like perfect because no one's perfect. So that'll wrap it for this week. See you next Tuesday. And as always, stay curious, stay courageous, and yeah, stay terrible.
Hey there. I'm not Patrick. I'm Christine. I'm a photographer from Indianapolis. Patrick asked me to record this because apparently he's a chicken shit coward who can't bring himself to ask you to rate his own podcast. So here I am, doing it for him, like the good Midwestern friend I am. If you've been listening to this, and if you've laughed, learned something, or just cringed at how he somehow makes being a photographer sound like a lame Lifetime movie or like we're curing fucking cancer, then take 30 seconds and rate the show. Spotify, Apple, whatever you're using. Click the stars. Leave a comment. Doesn't have to be a novel. Just something to tell the platforms that it isn't dog shit. Say something like, hey, this might be another white guy with a podcast, but this podcast at least makes you think about stuff. Because here's the truth. Patrick's not sponsored by Squarespace. Yet. He's not selling presets. Never. He's just out here making something for those trying to make it in 2025. And the only way this thing grows is if people like you tell your friends about it. So go ahead. Click the thing. Say some words. Tell a friend. It's a team effort. And Patrick? He really does appreciate it. Even if he made me say it for him.